You get 3 rolls on this tower, and whatever you roll, question-wise, that is where we begin. All right, kicking it off with my lucky number. This is number 3, wrap gifts. What is the most memorable wrap gift you've either received or given?
Oh my god. What is my most memorable wrap gift? I don't really know about that.
I feel like James probably does good wrap gifts.
What did we had for... Well, Creature Commandos was only virtual, so we never got to do that. Maybe... Guardians of the Galaxy... Well, the pop-up dolls that we do... Is that the word to use?
A pop-up doll.
Is it a pop-up doll? Like...
I'm either thinking like right now a Jack-in-the-Box or a Funko Pop figure.
Funko Pop figure.
Oh. Ooh.
Yeah, I think... Well, I have one for Cosmo. And... I was so excited to have one of it. These were like the cutest, sweetest things. And the funnest wrap gift that we had was for Borat. We wrapped the movie during the pandemic, and it was very early on. We released Borat back in October, late October 2020, 23rd of October, something like that, 2020. And we were filming until October 10. Which was like almost 2 weeks before we released the movie. But when we wrapped, we had masks with Borat wearing a mask. And I remember going outside wearing a mask when the movie wasn't really released yet. And I think that's one of the funniest wrap gifts that I had, which was Borat with a mask as a bathing suit on my face, little
amazing
figures. I think that's the funniest one.
All right, you got roll number 2. All right, we're going with a number 5. Ooh, number 5 is set vice. What is something like a food, a drink, anything at all that you turn to during a really long, hard day on set to kind of relax?
To relax?
Relax or power through it. Because, clearly I power through a lovely baby girl party last night with an energy drink.
I love energy drinks. Maybe that's not a good thing to say.
What is your energy drink of choice?
Well, God, I'm drinking a lot of Red Bulls on set. Sugar-free ones, because I think the sugar is making you sleepy as well. But I'm also drinking a lot of coffee. I'm European, so I have 7, 8, 10 coffees a day.
You're probably drinking better coffee than I am, too.
I don't know.
I've gotten in the habit of going to the supermarket to buy my Starbucks because I like the cold brew. I like the more intense coffee, but they're always out of cold brew. So now I just buy the bottled version at the supermarket and I keep it in the apartment. And then I don't have to go out anymore.
I'm European and I started drinking coffee very young. I was drinking a very small espressos. Then I came to the States and I discovered the Americano coffees. And then, of course, I fell in love, got addicted to Starbucks as well. So if I get a chance to get a Starbucks, I'm getting a Starbucks as well.
I do not blame you.
And I became not pretentious about it. In the beginning, I was like, oh no, this is not coffee. It's too much of a water and just a little bit of a coffee. Now I'm drinking any kind of a coffee.
Yeah.
Just open for a variety of coffees.
I understand that. When it comes to caffeine, usually I will take what I can get. Whenever I have to get one at Starbucks, though, especially the cold brew, I am the weirdo who orders the cold brew and tells them to put no ice and no water in it, which is cold brew. It's cold brewed concentrate. You shouldn't do that.
Well, the ice, I like the ice. I didn't like it in the beginning, but I like it now.
I like more coffee.
Yeah. We should get a coffee.
At some point. There's a Starbucks right around the corner,
We should go there after.
Yes, I will definitely. I can go caffeine heavy all day long. All right, 3rd roll on the tower and final roll. Oh, this is my favorite question.
Really?
This is Scream. And if I call a topic for a question Scream, there can only be one question I'm asking. What's your favorite scary movie?
That's a horrible question. It's really difficult. There's so many and so good.
I appreciate you calling it a horrible question for that reason.
Well, it's a horror movie. I don't know. Maybe I should go with Bodies.
I think that's totally fair.
I have to stay loyal to it. I think A24 are really good with horror movies. I have to be honest. Of course, we all have seen The Shining and Scream and a lot of classics. Like, there's so many good iconic movies. But A24 have done such a great revelation into filmmaking and horror movies and do it in such an elevated, classy way. Like, even Heretic I just saw.
Oh, I love Heretic.
It's great.
Oh.
It's great. But they also have Hereditary and Midsommar and It Follows. I mean, when It Follows came out back in 2010, something like that. Jesus Christ.
14?
Was it like...
Is it 14 or 15? I think, I can't believe I remember this, or I think I remember this. It Follows was 15, and Green Room was 14. I love both of those movies, and they're both A24.
Green Rooms as well, but It Follows. Maybe if I have to name a movie that I'm not allowed to be biased for, it's definitely It Follows. Mm-hmm. It's such a interesting, scary, with these giant human... You will always remember it. It's unique. It's a very... much with a signature of intelligent filmmaker and done in a very stylized way. But Midsommar as well. I mean, they're incredibly talented in this space.
Genre fans are very lucky nowadays. Like, we're just like constantly being fed all this like bold visionary filmmaking.
It's
and I love
great,
it.
and we need that. Mm-hmm. We need it. I mean, I was so scared of watching horror movies when I was younger, but it makes you feel better about your personal problems somehow.
The thing that I always say is part of the reason why I like horror movies so much is because I feel like watching them is an easier way to process the very difficult and real human truths in my day-to-day.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. It's helping you process it, and I mean, it's keeping you on your toes.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. It gets the adrenaline going almost as much as the energy drinks and the coffee.
Yeah.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back for a new edition of Collider Ladies Night that I'm especially excited about, and I mean it today, Maria Bakalova. You're so excited.
I am also
We're
excited.
Just like bashing microphones. That was our own fault. We just asked you to pull it closer to you.
Yeah.
This is the level of enthusiasm I need today. I've been waiting to have you on this show, it feels like, for way too long at this point.
Me too. I'm so happy to be here. I always get to see you just for a little bit, but I've been watching the videos and I'm like, oh God, one day I want to be there. And thank you.
Today is the day. We've had many wonderful, shorter, film-specific conversations, but this is like one of my favorite types of conversations to have, especially with someone who I admire, where we can actually go through your entire filmography, of course, paving the way to Creature Commandos.
Thank you.
Which is real good. I enjoyed that show
I'm so happy.
quite a bit.
Did you watch it?
I watched the whole thing.
It's a good show.
Mm-hmm. I trust James.
With everything.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
Really with everything.
I mean, he's a genius.
Oh, yeah.
I'm so lucky that I got a chance to meet him and to, I fall in love with comic films because of Guardians of the Galaxy. That was my first introduction to Marvel Universe because of Guardians of the Galaxy 1. And then I became a fan of Guardians of the Galaxy, and then I got to audition for Guardians of the Galaxy 3. And I was like, oh God, why am I joining this so late on the last installment? Because everybody was incredibly kind and dedicated, and it's fun to do things with people that are talented but are also a cool human being.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh no, it's the end. And then Creature Commandos happened, and I was like, God, this cannot be true. And yeah, it's incredible.
I want to know the movie you saw, the performance you saw, personal experience you had, whatever it may be that first made you say to yourself, I absolutely have to be an actor.
First, I think the first movie that made me fall in love with cinema was, I don't know, Pretty Woman maybe, or Titanic, when I was a child. Then I started acting, stage acting, theater, and I fell in love with acting. To be honest, I started everything with music. When I was 6 years old, I started singing, playing flute and piano, and my whole dream was to be in a rock band, like Led Zeppelin or Scorpions, or play guitar. We used to have a guitar in our apartment. My dad played guitar, not in front of me, but when he was younger. Then I started singing, and I was told that I should not be playing guitar because I'm a female, and I should play something more feminine, which was the flute. Then I started singing, and then I went through like a vocal bad situation when I stretched the vocal cord or something, and I had to keep myself muted for a period of time. That's when I started reading. When I started reading, I fell in love with magical realism to a huge degree, like Marcus and Borges, which led me to Bulgakov, which led me to Kazantzakis and Borges, like a lot of weird literature that we had at home. And I was like, how can I go to these places? It should be through theater. And I started acting for theater, and then I was like drawing the Hollywood sign on my school desk and quoting, "I'm going to be a great movie star someday, Marilyn Monroe." And my teacher was like, Hollywood is far away. They don't really have people like us there, because if there's something, it's going to be a small little role with 2 or 3 lines here and there. Just focus more on European cinema and go to a film festival or something. And I went to a film festival back in 2012, and I think it was a very strong year. It was when Sorrentino was coming out with Le Grande Bellezza. It was the same year when Mads Mikkelsen had 2 movies, The Hunt and A Royal Affair. That's the movie, like objectively speaking, The Hunt was the movie that made me fall in love with cinema. Like, in a conscious way. I was staring at the screen and I was looking at him, and I felt so many emotions because it's such a social commentary, that movie, Thomas Vinterberg's The Hunt, about society and how even a little child can change perceptions, even if it's like imagination within the whole story. I started doing my research. I fell in love with the idea of moving to Denmark one day because of Dogma 95 and Thomas Vinterberg and Lars von Trier, Susanne Bier. But the beginning was The Hunt.
Good one to reference there. Oh my God, there's so many things that I want to follow up on. I'll go here next because so you isolate the dream to work in this industry, and I always love asking about an actor's experience studying an art like that in school, and you did so quite a bit, and there's a couple little pieces that I wanted to make sure to hit. You studied at the National Academy for Theater and Film Arts. First, why particularly that school? Was there anything about the program they offered that made you think this will help me get to where I want to be and will also be good for the way I like to learn about my craft?
Well, that's the only way to do it. We don't have acting for cinema. We have only acting for theater in Bulgaria. And in high school, we had a school that was the National School for Music and Stage Performing. I did acting for theater, then I applied for the university, and I got accepted. It's a very heavy exam to get accepted to. It's like 2,000 people applying for 20, 30 places every year. But you go through it, you get accepted. It's a very heavy training. We don't have like a day off. It's Monday to Sunday from 6 in the morning until 4 in the morning, pretty much. Rehearsals and everything, and a lot of challenging plays that you have to do. And it's an Eastern European training. You have to have really tough skin because you might be told very offensive words or, you understand that you're capable to overcome a lot of things when you go through a university like this. Not that it's necessarily the great approach to do that because there are a lot more different methods to do it, but my dream was to go to the National Academy and to study there for 4 years, acting for theater. And I was thinking that I'm going to end up in a theater somewhere in Bulgaria and be working there till the rest of my life. Hypothetically, doing a movie or two once in a couple of years, if there's something. But your opportunities like being an actress and being an actress in cinema don't really exist in my country. It's not really possible.
You're changing that, though.
I hope we change it. I hope it's opening up opportunities and doors for a lot of people because there's so many talented people. And the only thing that we're dreaming for is to have a chance to audition for something, to try. If you're right for the character, maybe you're going to get a call back. If you're not, we're not upset about that. Just to be considered to try something.
Absolutely. So you just mentioned that school was mainly focused on theater, but I know that's where you met Petar and Kristina.
I did.
And they had, I guess it was like a somewhat of a side class that specialized in screen acting. What did you experience working with them that made you realize that, I don't want to phrase it like you loved screen acting more than stage acting, but what made you realize that screen work was the primary path for you?
Thank you so much for touching base on this. We got a chance to see each other in Toronto, and
Yes.
it meant so much to be doing this with you. Really, thank you. They are some of my heroes. I think they're exceptionally talented filmmakers, and they're very bold and provocative because they explore situations that really happened. Like, they use real-life stories and turn them into incredible masterpieces where they blur satire with tragedy, with a social commentary. We got one of the years that I was studying in the academy, 1 hour every single week, where somebody from our class was allowed to do an hour with them. And nobody was really excited about that because, it's like a mindset. We know that generally there are like 4 or 5 films that are being done by my country every single year. And it's not like a very stable job to do. So everybody's more focused on acting for theater. But I was very inspired by their work, and I was a huge fan of them. And I heard that there's going to be an opportunity to be with them once a week for an hour, and I was like, can I be your assistant? Can I be organizing the class? And can I be organizing who of the students will be coming to join you and to do a test, an etude or something? They're like, yeah. And not a lot of people were going, so I was going every single week. And then I asked them, can I be a PA on your set? Can I be just running around and just bringing coffee and doing basically anything possible to be around them and to learn? Because I think that's the best way to learn.
Oh, absolutely.
On set. But I met them, and they gave me the opportunity to do a cameo, a small little role in The Father, their previous film. And I was the happiest person on the planet, for real. Because, it meant so much. And they promised me that one day we're going to do something together. And I was dreaming, will that day ever come? And it actually came. And we did triumph together.
And it's really good. It's really good.
It's a very strange movie. It's a very absurd, satirical.
Oh, without a doubt.
But thank you so much. I also think it's like objectively, cinematically very satisfying.
Oh, no, it 100% is. And I'll also just bring up the fact that it's Bulgaria's selection for Best International Feature at the Academy Awards, which is a very big deal.
It is. And we've been doing the festival circus with the movie, and it's such a great surprise to find out that the humor, the tragedy lands properly. Like we did a premiere in Toronto. We did a European premiere in London at BFI, and I was just sneaking behind and I was looking at how people react, and everybody was laughing at the same places that Bulgarian audiences are laughing at. Everybody is like gasping at places that people from my region of the world are gasping, which means that it's quite a universal movie. And I'm excited for people to watch it.
Yes, I've got very high hopes. It's going to be embraced as it gets further and further out in the States, at least.
I hope so. I really hope so.
I know so. So you study in school, you leave school. Correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, because sometimes the internet is wrong. You moved to LA in 2019. Why particularly then? What was it about, where your head was at as an artist that made you think, like, I am ready for this now?
Oh, God. I moved because of Borat.
I was wondering which fell one before the other or vice versa.
Yeah, well, I was studying in the National Academy for Theater and Film Acting since 2015 to 2019.
Okay.
On the last day of my education, like my graduation day, I submitted a self-tape, blind self-tape, without knowing what I'm submitting for. There was just this Facebook status, quote-unquote, we're searching for a lead actress for a big Hollywood movie. Send us all of your details, record something, and hypothetically, we're going to fly you somewhere. But remember, that's a Facebook status. public status, written in Bulgarian language by a Bulgarian actor who lives in England. And I came home by 4 a.m. I was supposed to be picked up from my place to go to set 7 a.m., 3 hours later. And I was like, not enough time to fall asleep. I was in production of Women Do Cry.
Also, we did talk about that.
And I tried to stay awake, and I recorded something as a joke, just as a joke, and it ended up being a real movie. It ended up being a real movie.
I still can't quite believe it's a real movie. It's something else.
Well, yeah, to a degree it is. I did a few screen tests in London, and then we started filming in the States. A lot of interesting states. Like, we first started with Oklahoma, then Dallas. Then we came here for, like, a preparation for the next block. But back in 2019 to 2020, a global pandemic happened, which blocked me from traveling, and I just got stuck in LA.
That's so interesting. I did not put two and two together,
And the option was hypothetically, well, while we were shooting Borat, I couldn't really leave because we were never wrapped on the project. The pandemic happened back in February, March, and we kept shooting until October. So we had to break between February until July, which I just chopped my hair for a scene in the movie. Then the scene in the movie got cut. And I just found myself completely alone in the States, not allowed to say what I'm doing here, even to my parents. Like, my mom was just looking at pictures of me that I was sending to her at this beautiful house that I was staying. She was like, what are you actually working at? Like, what kind of a movie are you doing? Are you doing a feature film or an adult movie? And I was like, no, don't worry, it's like a real movie. And I'm like, with shaved hair, and it's a global pandemic. Nobody knows what's going to happen. And then the movie was released, and I had the option to eventually travel home or stay here, but I was advised to stay here for the promotion of the movie because other than that, I was not allowed to get back. So I stayed, and I was stuck in LA for about 2 years. So that's how I ended up moving here.
What an unusual way to make the move to Hollywood.
It's very interesting.
Oh, that's so one of a kind. So when you were here and not either actively filming or promoting that movie, like, where or who did you turn to kind of start to get your foot in the door in a wider sense or learn more about how Hollywood operated?
I actually didn't. I didn't know what's going to happen. I had no idea how the movie is going to do because it's so challenging when people do sequels. Like, if there is a movie that's been successful and it's been such a long time since the movie been released, it might be a big disappointment to do a sequel. So I didn't know, will audiences react to it? Will they respond to it? Will they like it? Do I have a chance to remain being here? Should I even try to do something here? When I came here for Borat, I didn't speak English. I didn't know how to say, what time is it? Like, I was embarrassed to say a single word in English. And the majority of the movie is in different languages. Sasha is speaking Hebrew, I'm speaking Bulgarian. I was so shy to say anything in English. So I never dreamed to be living here, like, for real. I was having this dream in my head that I've been here, this is going to help me somehow to work more in my country, in Europe, but not to stay here. And so I wasn't even focused on that. I was just enjoying the fact that it's now or never. Just right now, enjoy it. It's not going to happen again. And yeah.
Look at how differently things panned out. It's just so fascinating hearing you explain all of that and that kind of mentality, and just like me sitting here so many years later knowing that it got you an Academy Award nomination.
It's been incredible. It's been the biggest thing that you don't even dare to dream like that. You don't even dare to dream that you will be recognized by so many talented people, because the Academy is built by people with a great body of work behind them. And it's a comedy, and it's a very provocative comedy, and it's the first thing that I'm doing, and I'm 24. How can you even think about awards and nominations? It's not right to do that, but it happened, and it's remarkable that this is going to give some sort of a spotlight to my region of the world and European people and Eastern European artists that usually are perceived that they can only be seen in very small, limited roles that play one character, like one layer character as the prostitute or the gangster or the crazy scientist. And it should not be like that. But yeah, I don't know. That was like otherworldly experience.
It matters on that scale. I'm curious now to kind of like turn that inwards towards you. When you got to the States, whether it was Borat or something else you made later on, do you remember the very first moment when I guess maybe you had a fan encounter or heard a response to one of your performances that made you stop and go like my work matters to people on a deeply personal level?
Yeah. If every time when I receive something, because the only social media that I have is Instagram, unfortunately. I'm really bad at these things.
Fortunately.
I don't really do that very often. But once in a while, I'm just going through it. And when I see a message, it's always very, I don't know, it's very flattering and means a lot to hear from somebody that, thank you, your work inspired me and I'm going to pursue my dream, because I think that's the message that I want to spread. If this can happen to me, it can happen to you too. Like, just dare to dream for something, dare to do something, dare to risk something, dare to take a leap of faith. And if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't happen, at least you've tried. And yeah, I don't know when was the first time. Maybe when Borat was released the first day, there's so many messages. A lot of them were actually very threatening, but a lot of them, well, it's a very provocative movie.
Can't say that surprises me all that much to hear that.
But I got a support from a lot of great people and a lot of young girls that usually as a girl, you unfortunately, up until this day, people talk to little boys like, oh, look at you, you're so strong, you can do everything. And as a compliment that you give for a girl is usually, oh, you're so beautiful, look at what such a cute dress you have. And when you hear that, a little girl like 10, 12, 13, 14 saying that, I'm inspired, I know that I can do it as well, I'm going to try, it means a lot.
There's a big reason why this show exists, to just show how many different paths there are out there and how many possibilities. And
yep,
there's like, you can do it. You can do it. Believe in yourself and power through and make it happen. And my God, did you make it happen? I got a couple titles to hit here. I have to bring up Bodies, Bodies, Bodies just because like I love Helena. She's fresh on my mind right now because of Baby Girl, and I love that movie so much. The question that I'm going to go with for Bodies, 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 because I also think that ensemble is one of the very best ensembles of 2022. Yes, 2022. Big acting question here. Of everyone in that cast with you, which two actors would you say have the most polar opposite approaches to their work, where when you're their primary scene partner, you'll have a different creative experience with them?
Oh, God. I mean, that's the thing. Helena is, just because we saw each other at Helena's premiere for Baby Girl, you see that she is such a great director that she can take so many unseen things from an actor. Even like Nicole Kidman is such a marvelous actress. We've seen her in so many different things, and Helena had managed to pull something so unique out of her. And that's because she has this acting mentality in her bones. She's coming from acting, and she knows how to work with actors very well. So with us, she also picked a variety of actors that are very dedicated. They care about their craft. All of us, like Mahala and Amandla and Rachel and Chase, Pete, Lee, all of us were getting together and we were working on the script even before starting shooting and giving suggestions and ideas of how we can do this better, even though we had a great script, like how we can even elevated to a point of like making it more relatable, more specific, more generation defying, and Helena was open for that. So it's really hard to pick one over the other.
I get it.
Because, like both, how to say it, both Mahala and Chase, for example, are very thoughtful behind their work. Like they know everything to the smallest detail. Like they know completely the backstory of an actress, of the character. I remember Chase was telling us her approach to the character, like building a playlist and wearing the clothes and like using, I think maybe even a different perfume for a different role.
I get that.
And Rachel is such a unique chameleon that she can improvise on the day so well.
Does not surprise me to hear
that. And she does it so believable to the point of like there is no other option of you not following. You just, it's like a tennis match. You give each other something and bounce on that. Amandla is exceptional as well. So it's been a great group of people.
It's such a special group. I'm just realizing as you're naming them all, I'm like slowly getting every single one of you on Ladies Night. I've got a couple more to go, but we've had quite a few Bodies guests on this show.
Yeah.
So Bodies. From there, I will go. Actually, I'm going to detour a little. I do want to touch on Guardians, but before we get there, I do want to talk a little bit about filmmaking in Bulgaria and also Five Oceans as well. First question I'll ask you about that is maybe what is something specific about making a film in Bulgaria that you really appreciate and maybe think that more industries throughout the world would benefit from if they either embraced or even just considered it?
Well, we have a great tax rebate. I have to mention that.
Important.
I have to mention that. And the landscape is beautiful. We have a lot of interesting places. The architecture itself is very unique because it's been through a Renaissance architecture to communistic, like Sovietsky modernism architecture. And we have something very new, like really contemporary in the buildings, within the buildings. So you can find a lot of different genres within the country. Also, the nature is beautiful. We have a beautiful seaside that you can use that. Like The Young Woman in the Sea was shot in Bulgaria, the movie this year.
Very good movie too.
And it looks phenomenal. So it's great on like geographical point of view because we have great nature, we have great buildings, we have great seasides, we have beautiful mountains. It's really interesting on the mythology and legend side because the country is built back in 681st, and it's been in the same territory ever since then. So when you go back, there are a lot of myths about creatures and legends.
I remember Julian was saying the sea monster one, and I looked it up, something with a B.
Yeah, Blatnik. Yeah, it's really interesting to think about that. Old countries have history. With history comes myths. So that's another thing. And lastly, but definitely not least, even probably the most important thing is a lot of the people, everybody from this country is just waiting for a chance, waiting for a chance to be seen. And you will find great teams of very dedicated, open people that will do everything possible to complete the task and to do even more than that, like more than 100%. They will be able to stay awake and pour their soul in something because they're passionate that they're collaborating with different countries. Because I think that's the only way to move forward as people, as human beings, to have a cultural exchange between the eastern side and the western side. So I appeal everybody to consider coming and filming something, or at least do a co-production or maybe post-production or pre-production there. It's a very unique place.
Co-production with Five Oceans, maybe?
Yep.
I have a question about producing now. So I believe Triumph was the first movie you all produced under that banner. Having gone through that experience, is there anything new that you have found in yourself in terms of, the power of your own voice as a producer versus an actor, something that you've realized you're able to accomplish by wearing two hats on a production?
Well, it's a very responsible job to do. And I got to learn a little bit back in 2021, 2022 for a movie called The Honeymoon, because I was pretty much getting to be involved a little bit. But I understood that you really have to be very passionate about the project. You have to be there from the beginning till the end. We as actors have the opportunity to just step on the set and don't even consider all the work that's been done before that. We go to set, we say our lines, we go home, we rest. All of the people apart from us are there morning, noon, and night and doing everything so we can feel comfortable. And to find the right team, to organize the right set, to do the right preparation, you need producers. Producers are not the people that find money and give money only. They're there from the moment the idea is born. They develop a story if they're involved from the beginning. They build the script around. They have the opportunity to be involved with the casting process. They have the opportunity to be involved with different departments' casting process as well, because it's important who the DP is and who the sound is. They're going to be working hand in hand together. It's important to know who hair and makeup is and who costume is. Also, like, hair and makeup has to be able to work hand in hand with camera. Then you have to be a step up front and know who is doing the post-production. Where are you doing the post-production? If it's a co-production, maybe you can benefit the movie by doing post-production in a different country. You might do color correction in Germany better than doing it in Bulgaria because it might be at a better price with better people, or opposite, vice versa. And you have to know, who are you making this movie for? What's your target at the end? Is it a festival movie? Is it more commercial? Is it a blockbuster? What's your goal? Is it audiences that are between 12 to 22, or is it for more adult audience? So there are a lot more factors that you have to think creatively and organizing-wise, even apart from the fact that you still have to go and pitch the project and find financiers and find distributor. You have to find a sales company. It's like a lot of different pieces of the puzzle, and you have to find the right pieces so you can build the puzzle properly. And kudos to all the producers behind movies, because they have the hardest job. It's really one of the hardest jobs. They're the captain of the ships.
I'll squeeze in one more question about producing because it kind of came to mind as you were listing everything off there. What do you think is the most satisfying part of being a producer? Like, kind of when you put the pieces together, it feels so good. But then I also want the opposite, like the single toughest thing to like find or make happen as a producer.
It's really hard, like especially independent cinema. It's struggling to get financed for years. And if you believe in the project, you just never quit. It might take years. It might take 10 years. I mean, Triumph we've been building for, I think, 5 years. And we had the support of National Center of Culture, and we had the support of the Greek Films Center as well. But it's taking a lot of time. And that's probably one of the most challenging parts of producing, because you might have a movie almost ready to go and you have to stop because something is falling apart. And it's unfortunately always getting to financing. But if you're a true believer to the story, you go and pitch again harder and harder and harder. And if you believe in your actors, because you have to believe in the actors, a lot of the green light process goes through who are you casting for the roles. So I believe that you should be standing for the people that you want creatively, not the people that are going to make the movie bankable. You should have to find a way to find other people, other sponsors, other financiers to put some cash behind the movie, but do the right casting for the movie itself. And there are also so many other things. Like, once the movie is done, there are multiple types of editing process. Like, do we lock picture? Do we like this scene? Do we want to change something? Maybe if you have the chance to unlock the movie afterwards, after seeing how audiences react. You're going to unlock it and change something. Then you want to go back. Did you make the right choice? What are you doing with like posters? What do you do with trailers, teasers? Because that's the whole other industry. But back to the general question, I think one of the most satisfying things is that you get to spend a lot of time with a project, like from the idea to pre-production, production, post-production, and promotion. And one of the most challenging parts and the biggest disappointments is that these things might take ages. Like it might be such a chase to make it happen that it's very challenging to go through that.
Keep fighting to make it happen.
Yeah.
Seriously, great success with Triumph, and there's no doubt in my mind that there's going to be more in that sense coming your way in the future.
We hope so.
I say it almost every single ladies' night at this point. Manifestation table. When we say things here, they happen.
They happen.
I'm going to go back to my roadmap. I bumped Guardians because it just paves the way into Creature Commandos so nicely. So the opportunity to join the Guardians franchise comes your way. Maybe you don't know James as well at that point. What would you say is the biggest difference between things you need to consider when signing on for a film that's part of a franchise versus any other kind of movie you could commit to?
Well, I knew who James Gunn is. He didn't know who I was.
Of course he was still going to be a factor.
Well, he was incredible. He was incredible from the auditioning process till the end. As I mentioned in the beginning, I was a fan of Guardians of the Galaxy. It made me feel very special because I think that's what James does so brilliantly. He creates stories about these misfits, like characters that don't belong somewhere, but they're in search of belonging somewhere. And at the end, they find their chosen family. They found their friends, and it gives you a bit of a hope that there is always somebody for you, somehow, a friend. And it's important. It brings some heartwarming feelings to you, and it's always very funny. It's not done in a way of like pointing a finger, you should not be doing this, and being judgmental towards different creatures or people's behavior, but it's done in such a kind, gentle way that it's like, oh, okay, I don't want to be like that. I want to be like that character. So Guardians of the Galaxy, I saw the first two, and I was waiting like crazy for the third one. And I got this audition not knowing what I'm auditioning for. And because it wasn't like written, it's going to be Guardians of the Galaxy or it's going to be a dog, like nothing. I just did an audition where I was required to do something with like high pitch energy. And then the next thing was do a Zoom audition with Sarah and James. And then I was told that that's a dog. I was like, okay, that's interesting. Should I go on my force? What do I do? And he was very supportive from the beginning, and I was excited to do it. And I was like, okay, wonderful. Calling my team, my agents, like, how do we do this? Do we go in a, I don't know, voiceover booth? Do we do ADR? And I got the email that James is open to do it in person. Like, he wants to do it in person. He wants me to go to set. And I was like, really? But what am I even going to be doing there? And then I went there and I wore a mock-up suit. And I was really able to go on my force and play like a child. Because I remember, you know, in Guardians, there are a lot of these kids. And one of them was like, what are you doing? Aren't you too old to be on the floor? My mom is not letting me get dirty. And I was like, well, my mom is letting me get dirty. And I was like going there,
so happy.
Really enjoying it. Because at the end of the day, that's the biggest gift that we all have. To play, to imagine that today I'm a dog, tomorrow maybe I'm going to be a tree. Or the next day I might go to the moon. Who knows? That's the power of being able to go to different places through acting. And Guardians of the Galaxy wrapped, unfortunately, with a lot of incredible people. Like, you have some of the coolest, nicest, talented people in this franchise. You have Chris Pratt, you have Zoe Saldana, you have Dave Bautista, you have Karen Gillan, you have Sean Gunn. You have so many incredible people that have been, honestly, the nicest creatures, like the nicest people, the most welcoming people. You know, they've been together for 10 years, and when you're new, to your question, you don't know where you're going. You don't know how the atmosphere is going to feel. Will they be welcoming? Will they be a little bit taken aback that there is a new person? And they always made me feel like I belong there. Like similarly to the movie, I remember landing there in Atlanta and I had Karen Gillen and Pom Clementiev reaching out to me. Hi, we cannot wait to see you. We're waiting for you. Dale, do you want to come? We're going to a lunch or something. And I was like, that's the greatest thing that you can dream for. Supportive partners and great, talented people that are kind human beings.
Every set should have that vibe. I do feel like being kind in that sense elevates the work ultimately.
Yeah.
So everyone should strive to do that.
And I think that's mostly because of James, because he...
Top-down, trickle-down effect.
He has a sense of knowing how to find good people. Not only talented, but like good people, cool people.
That's why I find so much joy in creative fulfillment watching his movies and shows, and also why I find the interviews for his movies and shows to be the most creatively fulfilling.
Yeah.
Because they're always, it can be scary from our perspective, walking in a room, like especially when we did Creature Commandos and it was all of you, it can be scary. But every single time I've ever done something like that for one of his films or shows, it always feels right the second you walk in.
We had so much fun.
We did.
We played a game.
You were better at that game than you thought you would be. I understand it was a rough start. That was a real comeback you and Frank had. I was very impressed. I was very impressed.
I'm so scared of that type of things. I mean, I enjoy watching it, but doing it, my God.
I get it. We at Collider used to host a show called Movie Trivia Schmodown. And clearly, like, I love movies. I know a lot of stuff. When there's a spotlight on you and you are asked movie trivia, I like sweat. I forget everything I've ever known. It was probably like one of the most stressful shooting experiences I've ever had in my life.
Sim, but you're right. That's what's the greatest about James and his teams, his actors, his colleagues. He gets great people and it's always fun. It's always having fun.
I love that.
We had a lot of fun.
I can tell. I can tell in everything that you've now worked on together. So you were just explaining how you did the Cosmo voice, which, so like technically if someone looked at your IMDb, it says voice, so one would assume that's your first animated voice acting opportunity. That is entirely different than how you voiced Alana in Creature Commandos. Yeah. So I guess what was the biggest voice acting learning curve you experienced jumping into this role, which was kind of a completely new creative experience?
Oh my God. Kudos to all the voice actors out there. It's such a hard job to do. You basically only use your voice. We're privileged to a degree to be able to use physical appearance, to be able to walk in a different way, to talk in a different way, look at people different way with camera when we're acting on a set. Like, you use your eyes a lot of times. You use your hands a lot of times. You use your smile a lot of times. With voice acting, you basically only use your voice and your emotions and how you feel in the moment and what you're trying to achieve by just literally using your voice only. And it's a very hard job to do it, especially when James had done such a great job, but challenging, by building characters that are so layered that they pretend they're one thing and they're something more than that. And you have to do it believable because the other characters have to believe that that's one thing, and then you reveal later that it's a different thing. And it's a very challenging place to be at. Mm-hmm. But he is in charge, so you trust him and you know that at the end it's all going to be good.
I'm going to come back to that idea in a quick second. I'll squeeze in one more non-spoiler question before I raise the spoiler warning, and you could talk about whatever you want. But you just emphasized how it could be challenging because it's just your voice. On top of that, you're not working with a traditional scene partner. So what is it like creating a believable chemistry between you and another character when you don't get to work with the actor playing that character?
I got the script. And I read it, and I was like, okay, who's this Rick Flag? Because I don't know, did Frank got casted back when I got the script in the beginning? I remember just getting the message, and James was like, I'm writing this character, and it's going to be an original character. Because where my princess is from, we should be speaking the same language, which is Bulgarian. So I think that's behind why I was the first one cast there. And of course, I will forever be grateful because my dream is to be able to work with him again and again and again. If I have to choose one person that I want to stick with to the rest of my life, it will be him because he knows how to mix comedy with tragedy, with love, with action, with just everything together, and it's always beautiful. But I got the script and I read it and I was excited about my character because she was having multiple layers. She was something way more different than me. Feminine and like a woman. Like, I'm a woman and I know what I want. And I want this and I'm going to achieve it. I'm not like that. I'm very shy. And I don't even know how to say, can I have a biscuit or something? For real.
I get that. I was just having that conversation with someone. I can't sit in the middle or the window of an airplane because I will absolutely die on the plane because I wouldn't want to ask someone to get up so I could go to the bathroom.
Yeah. And here you have this woman who is not that old, but not that young, like 26, 7, 8, somewhere around that age. She is very feminine and very outspoken, very bold, very much a badass. I'm like, oh, God, okay, at least she's going to be something different than me. But who is going to be played by Rick? Who's going to play Rick Flag? And then Frank got casted. And Frank and I knew each other briefly. Because we were supposed to be doing a movie back in 2022 that we haven't done yet. And I loved his energy. He himself is like a hero. He is like a superhero. You know, he's such an athlete. He's always very much on time, on point, and like on a mission. I was like, okay, cool, that's going to be fun. And James knew Frank for a long time before, I believe. So we got on a Zoom session one time and we did it together. And he was excited and I was super excited and James was excited. And we did a funny scene together where we were just told, if you want to try, just you can use your hand to kiss it and imagine that.
He shared that clip.
Yeah. I mean, we had fun. We really had fun. At the end of the day, the show is part of the new DC universe, which is very specific and it's very interesting and it's a completely new approach and it's pretty dark, but it has a lot of humor in it. And a scene like that, I mean, if you take it too seriously, it's a different genre. It's not really an animation, even for adults. Maybe it's not for Max if we do it very seriously. It's a very comedic scene. It's hot for sure because he created these characters that look great. Like Princess Ilana Rosovich looks beautiful. Rick Flag looks hot. Together they look cool. And we have them, but we have this very violent, aggressive moment when they're like making insanely loud sounds. And we have the other creatures in front of the door. So it's like, it's not that serious. It's actually pretty funny. It's going to last a minute. Less than a minute, maybe. Who knows? So I was kissing my hand and I was like, oh God, do I look very weird now? Will people be watching me? Like, is Frank looking at me? Or is James looking at me? Like, is she okay? And then I looked at the screen and I saw Frank very invested in his hand kiss. And I was like, okay, we're in this together. So it's going to be all fine. If he's doing it, I'm doing it. If James is okay with that, we're going to be having fun.
We're all on the same level.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, we're on the same boat.
Amazing. All right, this is the time. I'm going to lift the spoiler warning for anybody who hasn't finished the entirety of Creature Commandos Season 1. This is where we talk about the finale, so goodbye. Go push pause on this YouTube video, and then you go and you watch the rest of the show on Max, and then you come back here and you push play, and it starts right here. All right. So I'll go back to what you were saying before with the many layers. I'm going to assume that you were told what her end game was at the beginning when you got the role. So what is the key to doing those earlier episodes where you're essentially planting the seeds? So if that someone decides to go back and rewatch the whole show, we really feel that she was heading down that path the entire time.
Well, it's a very unique character because she is perceived that she's very innocent and very fragile, and she needs protection, and she needs like that big of a protection that they're hiring a monstrous team because nobody else is capable of doing what they have to be doing. So they're basically the most dangerous creatures that can save the world, save the day. That's why they're released by the prison to go and save the princess. But when you see them coming to the place, you see her with her mother and you see her not really paying a lot of attention. It's like a single word of like, oh, my poor mother. She's like, this is the queen, and oh, I'm so sad for her. But if you're that sad for her, maybe you're going to pay more attention to her. Maybe you're going to introduce the people to her. I mean, there are a lot of Easter eggs. Is that what
Easter egg. I was catching them all.
That she's also playing it way too innocent and way too, like, maybe a bit silly too. Like, I love Americans and I want to lead my country to the 20th century. Is she saying this for real? Or is she saying it just to make them believe what they want to believe? Because, you know, people usually can get convinced. I learned that because of Borat. If you let them lead you, you can pretty much trick them to reveal a lot of their sides. And that's what she's doing. She's just letting them believe what they want to believe, that they're there to be heroes and to save the day, when she doesn't really need to be saved. She just doesn't need them there at all. She better get them out of there. And of course, there is this moment of like her probably getting attracted to Rick Flag, or maybe she's not. Maybe she wants to distract him of the mission because he's smart. Maybe he's gonna catch up on something that she has in mind. And she succeeds in that. She tricks him in a way of like manipulating him to make him, if not fall in love, but fall attracted to her. And it's destroying his reputation in front of the creatures, and it's making him a little bit weird for her. So she's really good as a manipulator to this. My question is, why is she in this position? And what does she has to do with, like, wanting to have all the power in the world?
I was going to ask, I don't know how much you have to think about backstory with this. I'll split this up into two questions. Leaning into what you were saying earlier with Guardians and what James is so good at, just in terms of like creating these misfits who maybe do bad things, but they like need to find their people. They need to be seen. Like, who did she need to be seen by in order to not want to do these bad things?
Exactly. I don't know, maybe her mother. Like, you know, it's always something within your childhood when you grow up and you want to be very dominant. You want control. You want power. We have a lot of references like Princess Ilana Rosevich when people have a little bit of power and they want to dominate the world, when they're in charge of a country and they just want to take over the whole country and even more. And it's never enough. Unfortunately, that's sometimes reality. And a lot of the reasons why people turn this way is because of their childhood and because they've been dismissed by their parents and they haven't been believed in. So then later on, when they grow up, they want to prove that they're worthy of something. They just want power. They want control. So they can never feel that small again. So maybe when she was younger, her mother never paid attention to her. Her mother never treated her that she is worthy. Her dad as well. We never see her dad. We never know anything about him. But I feel like she wants to dominate and she wants to destroy this country because she doesn't want to feel small and be able to be hurt again. Because she's been hurt before, for sure.
Oh, yeah. So in the show, we see Cersei's vision of what she ultimately does. In her mind, if she gets the power that she wants, like, what does her dream end goal look like? Is it in line with that vision, or is that even going too far for her?
Maybe it is her vision. Maybe she does want to be on top of the world, because we see Superman and we see Superwoman, Wonder Woman, all out, and I feel like if the princess knew what the bride is gonna do to her, she would have been front and center in this. Because again, it's control, it's domination. She doesn't want heroes. She wants to be the only leader in this. It's scary. It's scary that might be the dream of someone. But again, I feel like that's a dream of a lot of broken people. A lot of broken people that need to be seen, need to belong somewhere. I wish instead of killing her, they sent her to jail. Maybe she could have found a way back to morality and humanity to a degree.
I did wonder that, if maybe that was possible. On the other hand, because this storyline has come to an end for you, then my mind goes to, like, well, you want to keep working with James. I mean, he can give you another role in the DC franchise, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the dream. I was so excited and happy to be doing something with him. So it didn't matter, is it for a cameo? Is it for one episode? Is it going to be a whole show? And it's always a dream to be able to work with him. I did like this character a lot because, as we talked before, she's a villain. And I feel like we as actors do enjoy playing villains a lot. It's the first time that I'm doing this. I've always portray strong female characters that are capable of overcoming a lot of heavy stuff, but they do have humanity. They do have some dignity. With Ilana, I think she is actually very evil, and I want to know what her motives are and why she's in this position and what's going to happen with her. So I enjoyed being in her shoes.
You have a good evil laugh. I forget where it happens. It's either in episode 3 or 4 where I'm like, yes. Like, I could see you also playing a live-action villain one day.
I would love that.
Here's one more Creature Commandos question that I have to ask, because it's a really big moment in that finale. What did you think when you realized that your character was responsible for Nina's death?
I know.
It just, I'll be honest.
Knew that this question was
it just absolutely ruined. I didn't think the show was going to go there.
Yeah. I was hoping that people will. I know, I'm joking. I mean, it's not fair. It's not fair to have Nina being a monster just because she's born different in the first place and be locked in prison because she's just in the sea, standing on a rock, just resting for a little bit. That's such a great commentary in the world that we treat people that are different poorly because we don't understand them, and you don't need to understand them, you just need to appreciate them. So Nina is probably one of the most empathetic characters for all of us because it's none of her fault that she just ended up there. But I'm going to say something that she shouldn't have approached the princess. Like, why is she the one who has to do the dirty job? I mean, that bride, for real.
She was in the water to kill her, so there is a defense mentality there.
Again, maybe that was not the right approach on my side. On the princess side, because she could have only just taken the knife and throw it away instead of pointing it at her. But, I mean, why is Nina there?
It's such a
Why is not the bride there? Because she's better underwater? I mean, come on, the bride can also swim. Why? Why is Nina again sent to do the dirty work?
Poor Nina. My heart for her. That's what James is so good at, though. He's so good at, creating compelling, entertaining, often fun shows, but then also slipping in that meaningful subtext that fortunately or unfortunately well represents how we behave in our everyday life. And sometimes you need, a fantastical version of that to really process what our reality is.
That's the power of animation, I think. And And these comic book movies and franchises and shows that it feels far away from us, so we can look at it objectively, and helps us to realize, okay, it's like a metaphor of my life, and which way do I want to go? Mm-hmm. Is it wrong? Is it bad? Is it good? Is it right? And who I want to associate with, Nina or Ilana? Can you find excuses for them, or do you need to find excuses for them? It's beautiful. It's beautiful to pick up on a show that is so rich in color and music and characters, and then explores a very human nature at the end.
It is so true. I've kept you way too long, so I'll just...
No, I loved it.
I could talk to you forever.
Me too. I'm enjoying it. I'm having the time of my life.
This just means you have to keep coming back to Ladies'
I would
Night.
love to.
The door... Truly, the door is
to.
open literally anytime you want. I will end with our favorite last question. It's a question that I am in the habit of asking quite a bit now. In film and television, we give each other awards, which is a very good thing. I think we should keep doing that. No one in this industry tells themselves good job as much as they should, though. So I want to know something you accomplished making Creature Commandos that you know you'll always be able to look back on and say, you know what? I am very proud of what I did there.
Well, I'm really proud that I got to play a manipulative, evil character, and to not be in this spoiler part. I'm going to say I'm really proud that I got to play a character that is so far from me, and it's so confident in who she is and comfortable in her own skin and using femininity. Don't shy away from the fact that she's a woman and she has power. And being able to be here today and doing Ladies' Night, I think that's what we all should do. Like, you're a woman, you have power, use your power. I think that's what Ilana does.
I feel like I need to clip that out and, I don't know, make a trailer for Ladies' Night and put that in there. I'm going to say huge congratulations on everything you've accomplished on Creature Commandos and everything coming your way in the future. I know there's going to be many, many more interviews at this table.
I would love to. It's the manifestation table.
It is. It is. It's going to
come here more often. Can you imagine? I'm going to be waiting in front of the door every week. Perry, I'm here.
Happily.
I need to manifest something.